Today, Baseball Commissioner Fay Vincent announced that Yankee owner George Steinbrenner had agreed to resign on or before August 29th as managing general partner of the club for his dealings with gambler Howard Spira. A new managing general partner will be appointed on or before that date, and that means that there will be someone new to run the Yankees.
Gene "Stick" Michael held every major league occupation imaginable. He's the only person to serve as a player, scout, manager, and general manager for the New York Yankees. There's no one George Steinbrenner trusted more with his baseball decisions. In 1990, Michael faced his toughest task yet, the worst Yankees team in decades. Luckily for the Bronx Bombers, there was no one better for the job. This is the Baseball Time Machine. Stick Michael's baseball career began as a player in 1958 when he signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He finally debuted in 1966 after spending years grinding it out in the minor leagues. He'd go on to spend 10 years in the bigs, 7 of which were with the Yankees. His defense was sound, and his baseball IQ was as high as could be, but what held him back was his bat. A lifetime .229 hitter, Stick could just never get it going at the plate. His playing career was full of frustration, oftentimes struggling to get consistent playing time. At one point, he considered abandoning baseball to pursue basketball, something he was arguably even better at in college. The Yankees let him go before the 1975 season. Despite placing him on waivers, New York GM Gabe Paul saw bigger things in Michael's future. After being released by the Boston Red Sox without getting into a game the following year, 38-year-old Michael took a job with the Yankees as a part-time assignment scout. From here, he'd work his way through the organization, occupying several important positions. With his playing days behind him, Gene Michael's baseball career was finally able to blossom. Less than a year after joining New York as a scout, Stick was named an administrative assistant to team owner George Steinbrenner. The boss knew how strong Michael's baseball mind was and kept him close by. The Yankees celebrated a World Series victory in 1977, defeating the Dodgers in 6 games. Reggie Jackson credited Michael's scouting reports for helping him hit 3 home runs in Game 6. Following the 1977 season, Gene was appointed base coach for 1978. Some thought he was next in line to become manager of the Bronx Bombers, as Steinbrenner and then manager Billy Martin's relationship was rocky to say the least. Martin was fired during that 78 campaign, but it was Bob Lemon, not Michael, who took the role of Yankee skipper. That team was stacked with talent, led by the likes of Reggie Jackson, Thurman Munson, and Ron Guidry. They won 100 games that year, again besting the Dodgers in 6 to win back-to-back World Series titles. Stick's coaching carousel continued in 1979, as he took over as manager of the Yankees AAA affiliate in Columbus. His first season managing couldn't have gone better, as he and the Clippers celebrated an International League title. Heading into 1980, the boss named Dick Howser manager and gave the GM position to Gene Michael. He admired Stick's baseball mind and combativeness, the latter trait being one that they shared. As general manager, Michael made some quality moves, signing outfielder Bob Watson and pitcher Rudy May, while acquiring catcher Rick Cerrone and pitcher Tom Underwood from Toronto. All 4 made positive impacts, as the Yanks won 103 games and the AL East, before being swept by Kansas City in the championship series. Despite the strong regular season, George Steinbrenner was very upset about being swept, and fired Dick Howser. The boss wanted someone more hard-nosed, more willing to discipline his players. Therefore, he named Gene Michael the new manager of the New York Yankees. He felt Stick was ready, and had the qualities necessary to lead his precious ball club. Michael's approach as Yankee skipper was rather simple: communicate, enlighten, be honest, and open. They got off to a good start, winning the first half of the strike-interrupted 1981 season with a 34-22 record. This was enough to clinch a playoff berth, but New York began the second half 14-12. Steinbrenner, known for keeping his staff on a short leash, grew frustrated with the team's efforts coming out of the strike. Following months of apparent threats, the boss finally pulled the trigger and fired Gene Michael in early September. It's key to note that respect was almost always earned when someone stood up to George. Their time together wouldn't be over for long. In the meantime, Bob Lemon returned as manager and led the Bronx Bombers to another World Series, but this time they fell in 6 games to LA in a rematch of the '77 Fall Classic. It only took about 7 months for Stick and the boss to reunite. Following a slow start in 1982, Steinbrenner fired Lemon and rehired Michael as Yankees skipper on April 26th. But just over 3 months later, following a 44-42 stretch under Gene, the boss fired him again, replacing him with Clyde King. This time, George found it hard to let Stick go from his role as manager, but believed he belonged elsewhere within the Yankee org. Gene Michael returned to the front office in 1983, but quickly moved back to the dugout, serving as third base coach in 1984, 85, and part of 86, all mediocre seasons by Yankee standards. Over on the north side of Chicago, the Cubs had an opening at manager after Jim Frey's squad began the year 10 games below 500. There was no one general manager Dallas Green wanted at the helm more than Gene Michael, and brought him in to try and right the ship. Steinbrenner was heartbroken, but let Stick go. For the first time in nearly a decade, Michael was no longer a Yankee. Chicago didn't get much better with Stick's leadership, going 46-56 the rest of the 1986 campaign. Green expressed concern over Michael's control of the players, something that didn't seem to ever be an issue in the Bronx, but decided to bring him back for 1987. By the All-Star break, Michael's Cubbies were in 4th place and 10 games back in their division. Come early September, they were a .500 ball club, nowhere near contention. Michael announced that he would resign at the end of the season, a statement that Dallas Green accepted immediately, letting him go a month early and replacing him with Frank Lucchese. Green later expressed great regret in hiring Stick Michael, but with the Cubs ranking near the bottom of the NL in several key categories, perhaps the team wasn't built for success. After being axed by Chicago, Gene Michael returned to the Yankees as a chief major league scout for the eastern half of the United States. While he spent his time finding the future, the ball club continued to flounder, leading to rock bottom in 1990. This brings us back to where we began. Due to his shady business dealings with convicted gambler Howard Spiro, in which he attempted to gain dirt on Yankees star outfielder Dave Winfield, George Steinbrenner was suspended from day-to-day baseball operations. Although he could stay on as owner, the boss had to relinquish control. Control of the business side was given to Robert Niederlander, a friend of George's that hailed from the live theater industry. As for the baseball side, Tom Seaver, Hall of Fame pitcher turned Yankees broadcaster, was extremely close to being named general manager, but at the last second, Steinbrenner appointed Gene Michael to the position. Putting Stick in charge of baseball ops might have been the smartest decision the boss ever made. While in charge of the Yankees, George Steinbrenner was notorious for buying his talent, quick to trade any and all prospects without consideration of their potential. Gene Michael brought a very different approach to the team's construction. With his background in scouting and managing, Stick understood the importance of building a strong farm system and developing talent, rather than just trying to buy success. He saw value in more than just home runs and RBI, stats that reigned supreme through the 90s. He was an on-base guy, appreciative of a hitter's ability to show discipline at the plate and go deep into counts. When he took over, the Yankees ranked last in MLB with a team 300 on-base percentage. That quickly changed with the guys he brought in and developed. Michael brought a stable personality when the team needed it most. He preached patience, and the early 90s served as a transitional period for the franchise. In 1990, the Yankees spent mid-round picks on southpaw Andy Pettitte and shortstop Jorge Posada, who would move to the catcher position within a couple years in the minors. They also signed Panamanian pitcher Mariano Rivera as a free agent. Teams reached out regarding outfield prospect Bernie Williams, who had a .409 OBP in AA. A prospect in high demand would almost always be shipped out with Steinbrenner in charge, but Michael wouldn't have it. He knew what Bernie would become. Following 2 seasons well below .500, the Yankees had earned the 6th pick in the 1992 draft, and used it on a shortstop from Kalamazoo, Michigan, Derek Jeter. There would be no core 4 without Stick Michael. Along with impressive drafting and scouting, Stick also made several big trades. On November 3, 1992, the Yankees acquired right fielder Paul O'Neill from the Cincinnati Reds for outfielder Roberto Kelly. This move paid dividends on multiple levels, as O'Neill's competitive fire was perfect for the Bronx, and the trade of Kelly opened the door for Bernie Williams to take the starting spot in center field. Another significant trade was bringing in starting pitcher David Cohn from Toronto in exchange for 3 pitchers, 2 of which never touched the bigs. The Blue Jays pushed Randy Pettitte, but Stick wouldn't budge. When trading for Tino Martinez after the 1995 season, the Mariners pushed for Rivera, Posada, or Pettitte, but Michael once again stood his ground and declined. They wound up settling on Martinez and pitcher Jeff Nelson for Sterling Hitchcock and Russell Davis, a deal that looking back was heavily one-sided in the Bombers' favor. According to assistant GM Brian Cashman, teams would approach Michael and the Yankees about the core 4, but he was very sure of holding on to his top prospects, always shifting the conversation to other pieces. Stick proved that sometimes, the best moves are the ones that don't get made. Come 1993, things were looking up, and it was all thanks to Gene Michael. George Steinbrenner was reinstated that year, but left day-to-day baseball matters to Michael. Stick brought in the likes of Jim Abbott and Wade Boggs, the former tossing a no-hitter on September 4th of that year. The Yankees finished the season above .500 for the first time since 1988, and were in the division race until September. Slowly but surely, the Bronx Bombers were returning to prominence. 1994 very well could have been New York's year. They were playing dominant baseball, almost 30 games above .500 when the players went on strike. The Yankees had the best record in the AL, led by Paul O'Neill at the plate and Jimmy Key on the mound, who was also an acquisition of Stick Michaels. Unfortunately, play never resumed, and the 1994 campaign was a bust for everyone. 1995 was also shortened by the strike, and featured the first year of the wild card playoff format. With an added opportunity to reach the postseason, the Yankees' second-place finish in the AL East earned them a spot in the first American League Division Series. Taking on the Mariners, the Bronx Bombers jumped out to a 2-0 series lead, but were swept in 3 games out west, falling to Seattle in dramatic fashion. Despite the loss, the season was eventful, highlighted by the breakout of Bernie Williams, debut of the Core 4, and Don Mattingly's final season. Gene Michael, now 57 years old, had grown tired of the 15-hour workdays and resigned from his role as general manager after the '95 campaign, despite Steinbrenner urging him to stay on. Michael remained the team's primary talent evaluator, starting with choosing his replacement in Bob Watson, a player he signed in his first stint as GM back in 1980, and the new manager in Joe Torre. With everything in place, Gene Michael was now able to sit back and watch as the team he built became a dynasty. Stick's top prospects were at the forefront, as were his key signings and acquisitions. In 1996, the Yankees' top 4 leaders in WAR all joined the team through Michael's influence. Andy Pettitte led the American League in wins and finished second in Cy Young voting. Derek Jeter unanimously took home AL Rookie of the Year after leading all rookies in hits, RBI, and batting average. Steinbrenner and Clyde King didn't think the young shortstop was ready, but Michael convinced the boss to give him a shot at the starting spot, and it proved to be the right decision. Playing in their first fall classic since 1981, New York outlasted the big three of Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox, exposing the Braves' bullpen and winning the series in 6 games. In 1998, Jorge Posada's first year as starting catcher, the Yankees won 114 games, a squad deemed one of the greatest in baseball history. They steamrolled their way through the postseason, going 11-2 and sweeping the Padres in the World Series to win their second title in 3 years. Jeter and Posada both posted positive offensive numbers, while Mo and Andy held San Diego scoreless over a combined 11 2/3 innings. Mariano Rivera was baseball's saves leader in 1999, reaching the Midsummer Classic with 4 other Yankees, including manager Joe Torre. In a rematch of the '96 Fall Classic, the Bronx Bombers swept the Braves, winning their 25th World Championship. Mariano's stellar season continued into October, as he claimed World Series MVP with saves in Games 1 and 4. To that point, the Yankees had won 8 straight games on the grandest stage of them all. 2000 brought a Subway World Series for the first time ever, with New York running the baseball scene. Despite Piazza and company's best efforts, the Yankees won with ease, taking home their 4th title in 5 years. 26-year-old Derek Jeter earned himself World Series MVP after batting .409 in his 4th Fall Classic. The New York Yankees were once again the evil empire. It could have all been different if not for Stick Michael's decision-making and leadership. Gene Michael stayed with the Yankees even once the dynasty was over. Following the 2002 season, the Red Sox asked to talk to Michael about their open GM position. George Steinbrenner declined, leading Boston to fill that spot with young executive Theo Epstein. The following year, Stick signed a 6-year contract to remain with the Bombers and serve as vice president and senior advisor, a position he held until his death. As senior advisor, he worked with GM Brian Cashman and visited Yankee farm teams to evaluate prospects. Over a decade after his term as general manager, you could still see Stick's fingerprints on the pinstripes. The Yankees were crowned champions again in 2009, with the core 4 still a major piece of their success. Jeter hit over .400, Posada drove in 5, Rivera grabbed 2 more saves, extending his Fall Classic record to 11. Pettitte won Game 3 and the series-clinching Game 6. On September 7, 2017, Gene Michael passed away from a heart attack at the age of 79. He spent most of his incredible life as a member of the Yankees organization, and was always beloved by team personnel and fans alike. The loss of Stick shook the Yankee organization to its core. There's no understating how much of an impact Michael had on the last 30-plus years of baseball in the Bronx. Gene Michael is the poster boy for the term baseball lifer. He set a prime example, holding many of our sport's most important positions. It's extremely rare to be as all-encompassing as Stick was in Major League Baseball. He spent most of his time in George Steinbrenner's massive shadow, but when the opportunity presented itself, Stick Michael got his time in the spotlight and didn't disappoint. He's largely responsible for a significant piece of New York Yankees history, their most recent dynasty. No MLB team has repeated as champions since Stick's Yanks. There are few, if any, baseball minds greater than Gene Michael's. This has been the Baseball Time Machine. Thanks for traveling with us. We here at Baseball Time Machine appreciate you spending time with us. To celebrate our recent journey, crack these codes for a chance to win a mystery artifact. Safe travels!